Right. I'm off to deal with the fate of the planet. Be gentle with them.
Oh, you know me, Mark. Kid gloves, but made from real kids.
So, about the movie. It's been like 15 years. Well, inside the story, it's been like 15 years. I have no actual reason to believe that. I think Teen Wolf ended in 2017, so it's more like 6 years ago since it ended. And since then, a lot of has changed. Well, not really in their career lives. Aside from Tyler Hoechlin, I literally don't know what else anybody has been up to. Tyler Hoechlin plays Superman, and he does that quite well. Crystal Reed was in Swamp Thing, which, despite a good quality, was apparently too expensive, so they cancelled it after one season. And for the rest of the cast, they've been in movies and TV shows, but like nothing as major as like Teen Wolf. I know the actual star of the show, Scott, or the main star, the actor of Scott, who always forget his last name, Tyler Posey, so I refer to him most of the time as Tyler 1. Same goes for Dylan O'Brien, so he's Dylan 1, and then there's also Dylan Sprouse, who's Dylan 2 for me. I'm going on a tangent, I know, but let's say the movie. Is it good? Well, it depends. It kind of, there are elements that work, and it feels like weirdly stitched. Like this was not made to be a film. Rather, it was like a mini-series that was then cut together to a 2-hour film. Because some of it really feels unfocused. Now, there are some funny lines. I think the one particular is where Allison's dad, who's possessed by the Nogitsune in the beginning, he's asked a bunch of riddles, and he's like, "Darkness, motherfucker!" And then later on, when he's not possessed and questioned about how they can kill the Oni, he's like, "Silver, motherfucker!" And that's one of the times where I laughed out loud watching this film. Yeah, it's just some of the cast that is not there is so important to the Nogitsune plot. Like, say, Styles, aka Dylan O'Brien, who was apparently too busy or just doing something else or couldn't be bothered, or Arden Show, who just left the set and didn't return, or some shit like that, or she didn't like what they were paying her. As multiple versions of what went down, but in the end, she isn't in the film, and it's very noticeable for both of them because they're not only important to the Nogitsune plot and also to the character dynamic. And it doesn't help that the film has a character called Hikari, who is a kitsune, a fox spirit, who is from Japan, who fights like a sword, who basically acts as Kira, although she doesn't really say many lines and doesn't really interact with any of the cast. It's just, you obviously know that this is supposed to be Kira, and they had to just make something up for that. No explanation is given for Dylan O'Brien's absence or Styles' absence in the film. Well, not technically, but the explanation is really, really dumb. But it also kind of makes sense. For me, the movie takes kind of the worst elements of the show and mashes them together, so it's an overlong experience of some fun moments, but overall really terrible moments. And don't get me started on a story, because the story is just really dumb, and it's best to not think about it. To just not think about anything that happens and shut off your brain and enjoy that the characters are together again. I did kind of enjoy Allison being back. Crystal Reed returned for one episode in season 5, playing an ancestor of Allison, and that was fine. And now she's literally back through some kind of ritual. But I don't like it for the reason that they brought her back to ship her back with Scott. So, because technically she's been dead for 15 years, and it's so clear that, for one, Crystal is 40, but in storyline she should have the mind of a 17-year-old, or at least a teenager, because she died as a teenager. And she just kind of acts normal once she gets all her memories back. It's kind of cool seeing the hunter side of her and really hunting and being kind of a badass and fighting. There's some decent fight scenes. Most of them are fine, I guess. Like, it's not always outright terrible. It's just fine. You know, Peter is back. He gets to exchange one line with Malia, and it doesn't really make sense because he's just there in the room and then there for the rest of the movie, seemingly aware of what is going on, despite the other characters also not being aware of what is going on. And then there's the whole relationship thing with Malia and Parrish. But before I dive into this, let me give you more reasons to the Allison Scott thing. I don't like them being back together because they were like high schoolers, so they didn't know what love is, and it also kind of invalidates later seasons because Scott managed to move away and then suddenly being happy-doodly again with Allison, you know. And the other point is she's brought back by some kind of ritual that also brings back the Nogitsune. And I think for me as a narrative it would have been more interesting if they defeat the Nogitsune at the end, and that also means that Allison has to say goodbye, or she dies similar at the end as she did in season 3, which doesn't happen, sadly. But I think narratively this would have more closer together, or some kind of repercussion for bringing somebody back from the dead. Then, yeah, the Malia Parrish thing is kind of trash. Malia worked so well with Styles, and it still boggles my mind that they broke up, or that the writers chose to break up this pair. Because for me, like I said, it didn't work for me when she hooked up with Scott. That felt weird for me. And with Parrish, it's even weirder because Parrish was created as a sort of love interest for the character Lydia to divert all the attention from their whole Lydia Styles shipping. Didn't work back then, so they skipped just this part. And Parrish was also never really that interesting of a character, nor that helpful despite his abilities as a hellhound. Despite having plot relevancy, it only comes handy in a few occasions, probably, so the sense is not given that he can handle all and there's no need for a werewolf or an alpha. I don't know. What else is there to say? Derek has a kid for some reason, and they try to awkwardly clunk in this kid to be the new protagonist for a spin-off show. Please don't. Derek's kid is not awful as not an awful character. It's just he feels out of touch, you know, with the rest of the guard, with the rest of the experienced actors who have been like veterans of the show, and to clunk him in and give him some plot importance. Well, not really even plot importance. Like I said, it's really awkwardly done. But I didn't come up hating him in the end. It's just weird that he exists and there's no mention of his mom. What name has his mom. Did she die? What happened exactly? Nothing. Then, what was his name? Portrayed by Colton Haynes. Anyway, his character is back in the show, and he's paired up with Lydia, and they practically get to do nothing for the entire show, and for the entire film. They just kind of sidelined, and that's what I'm saying. This film feels weirdly structured, because some characters get to do a little bit, and some just don't, and it feels more like it was made for television, for something, until the plot needs them, but the plot never really needs them, so why are they even in a story? And the thing with characters like Jackson, Jackson, that was his name, is he's just reduced to snappy gay guy. And I know Colton Haynes is gay in real life, and that's one of the reasons why I kind of wanted to drop out of the show, because he had to play a straight character and he didn't want to do that anymore. There's, I think, one scene where it's still this hothead, this hothead like you know him, but for the rest he just serves the purpose of styles, and it just doesn't work with Jackson, because Jackson is fundamentally different, and it's kind of sad to see this type of character, because we have seen the snappy gay guy in literally everything, and just that, I don't know. But yeah, it's sad about Lydia and Jackson that they get to do literally nothing for the entire film. And even in the end, he gets shot, and he with a normal bullet, and for some reason the movie pretends like he doesn't have supernatural powers like super healing, so he's just there and sitting, begging Lydia to scream, which is just, I don't know. The longer I think about it, the stupider it all becomes. And I personally was kind of excited for this film, to see the old cast again. Tyler Hoechlin is in this film after it was reported that he would not partake, and then he was on set, and I think he just agreed to do it because they were gonna kill him off. Big shocker. By the way, he also dies in a very stupid way, but I'm not gonna go deep into that. And literally none of the characters really come changed or changed from that experience with the Nogitsune, and I don't want to get into the Nogitsune because he worked in Teen Wolf Season 3, but in this movie he just spouts one-liners and is so boring, and also it's a character that is so OP that it gets boring. And they even have the gall to like give him a face reveal because he's not part werewolf or whatever. It looks awful. I'm sad for the costume designers who had to do that, and the whole last third of this film is just bad. The first act is fine. The second act is still fine but worse, and then the third arc is truly the worst of Teen Wolf, like season 5 levels of bad, or season 2 level of bad. And there's really nothing more to say, and I know they're trying to set up another show or movie in this universe depending on how well this film does, and I'm severely less excited for the future of this franchise. On the other hand, Jeff Davis has a new show called Wolfpack, which is not placed in the Teen Wolf universe, with Sarah Michelle Gellar, and I might be doing a video on that. Let me hear your thoughts about that, and bye. I give this film a 5 out of 10 because at least I was entertained and it was nice seeing all the characters again after saying all this negative shit. I want to leave it on a positive note and say I still enjoyed it for what it was at times and when I could, and I just shut off my brain doing it. So my advice is don't think about it, just go on a ride like it is an adventure park and let you be enthralled by the characters and dynamics. It's nice seeing familiar faces sometimes.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Now get the fuck out of my driveway.